everyone, it's Cass. Welcome back to my channel, whatcassread. There's Luna in the background. Of course, she's going to be joining us for this video. It looks like Luna. What do I do? I can't believe it. I know. It went so well. So you're never going to believe what just happened to me. I think this is probably the first time this has ever happened to me, but I legitimately filmed an entire video. I was about ready to do my sign off and everything, and then I looked up and saw that I wasn't even recording. Awesome. So we are here today. We're gonna retry it. Hopefully it's just as good as the first take. And I'm gonna do my list of fall book recommendations. So I know it's a little bit early in the fall season to be filming one of these kinds of videos, but I feel like we have October TBRs still to be created, November TBRs still to be created, and I want to get the jump on those TBRs and just give you some of my recommendations for the fall reading season, for that cozy reading time season, the spooky reading time season, with this list of 5 books. So let's get to it. The camera is actually recording, so let's get started. Okay, the first book that I need to recommend to you, this is City of Ghosts, written by Victoria Schwab. So it's V.E. Schwab. She goes by Victoria Schwab when she's doing her middle grade stories. So I read this book as a part of the BookTube SFF Awards this past year, and I actually really enjoyed this. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. This follows a young girl named Cassidy Blake. She has a near-death experience, and ever since then, she is able to see ghosts. She ends up having a ghost best friend. She's in school. She hangs out with her ghost best friend all the time. So Cassidy's parents are professional ghost hunters. They have a TV show. They do historical backgrounds on ghosts, and they go chase the ghosts. But they don't actually know that Cassidy actually can see ghosts for real. Her parents end up getting this really great gig in Edinburgh, Scotland. So her and her family, they end up going to Scotland to help her family film their TV show. Cassidy tags along, and she ends up having her very own ghostly adventure within Edinburgh, Scotland. I think this book is great for the fall time season, just because not only do you have like a fun, cute little ghost adventure, but you're in Edinburgh, Scotland. So you've got really rainy days. You've got a colder atmosphere. You've got a really old city, and so you get to experience a little bit of like the historical parts of Scotland through Cassidy's eyes, and it just ended up being a really fun adventure for me. So despite Victoria Schwab, V.E. Schwab being pretty hot and cold here on BookTube, I rated this 4 out of 5 stars, and I think this could be a really good, fun, pick-me-up, quick adventure. Her next book, Tunnel of Bones, is coming out either like really soon or soon. I don't know. Is it out now, or is it coming out really soon? One of the two. I should have looked up before I actually hit record on this video, but it takes place in Paris, so the adventures for Cassidy Blake and her ghost best friend will continue on with there. So yeah, definitely give that one a try. Then the next book that I would like to recommend to you, this is Sawkill Girls, written by Claire Legrand. This is a young adult horror novel, and I would rate the horror in this like maybe a 3 out of 5. It's not in-your-face horror, it's more suspenseful and mystical horror. So this book takes place on Sawkill Rock. It's this misty East Coast rock. There's like old money references, there's like a horse community, there's young people that aren't necessarily a part of this old East Coast money atmosphere, and they're all learning to live together on this really small community called Sawkill Rock. There's a presence on this island, a mystical presence. It's slightly sinister. It has attached itself to a singular family. And not everybody knows that it exists, but what happens on Sawkill Rock is that throughout many, many years, there have been young women that have gone missing time and again. There are 2 young main characters. We follow maybe 3 or 4 young women in this story. There are 2 main characters who end up getting really attached to the fact that there are young women going missing on this island, and they feel like nobody really cares. So they develop a friendship. They start looking into the mystery of why these women go missing, and the story really takes off from there. If you're looking for something to listen to during the fall season, during the autumn season, this could be a really good one. And like I said, the horror is more suspense, more mystical. There were definite parts where you're like, oh my god, that's pretty creepy, but It's never like in your face, it's never jump out at you kind of horror. It doesn't last for very long, but it's just enough to keep your hair just like a little bit raised on the backs of your arms. So I would recommend Saw Kill Girls for you for this fall reading season. All right, this is Needful Things, written by Stephen King. This is the only book in this video that I actually have not read yet. All the other books in this video I have read, but this one I haven't yet. So the reason why I am picking up this book and recommending it for the fall season is for my own reading tastes for this fall. I've decided that I would like to try some like legitimate horror. I decided that I would like to try some Stephen King for the fall season. And so Needful Things ended up being one of the books that I decided I would like to give a try. Last year, you know, during the fall season, I was severely let down. Like, I went the witch route, I went the supernatural route for those spooky reads, and I wasn't finding anything that I was connecting with. So that's why I decided I wanted to give some like actual horror a little bit of a try. So Needful Things takes place in this town in Maine, Castle Rock, Maine. And there is a man named Leland Gaunt who opens up a curiosities shop called Needful Things. Nothing in this store costs money. You would find like almost anything that you want specific like to individual people in this store. And in the place of money, you make a deal with Leland Gaunt, and there's varying degrees and varying deals that you end up making with Leland Gaunt, because the question becomes, how far will you go to get the things that you want? So I took to Twitter just last week when I was looking for some Stephen King recommendations, some horror recommendations. I reached out to Jess Nevertheless, I reached out to Rachel from Shades of Orange, and they're both Stephen King fans. Rachel's a really big horror booktuber here on this platform, and this book ended up being one of the recommendations that I decided would be might be a good chance for me to get involved in some Stephen King, because it's not like monster horror. It's more or less like, how far are people willing to go? Like, would you kill someone? Would you murder someone for the things that you want? It's a pretty hefty book. This book did not end up being the book that I picked for my book club this month, the Big Ass Book Club. I'm still planning on reading this in the month of October. It's gonna be a big chunky one. I'm pretty excited for it. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. But yeah, I thought if you were along the same lines as me, like not necessarily wanting something supernatural, not necessarily wanting something super full of monsters, but wanting just a little healthy dose of spook for the autumn season, you might think about giving this a try. All right, so this book, this is Brahe Sister, written by Mark Lawrence. This is the first book of the Book of the Ancestor trilogy. I just want to recommend this because it's just a really great fantasy trilogy. This book and Brahe Sister were the two books that were nominated for the BookTube SFF Awards, both in 2017 and then 2018. And every single time I mention the Book of the Ancestor trilogy, there's enough people that follow me that see this book and they're like, oh, I still really want to get started on that. So this is like my once again nudging you that yes, you should get started on this. This could be a really great time of the year for you to begin a new fantasy trilogy. The trilogy is completed, so you don't have to wait for the next installment or anything like that if you just like really want to power through all of the books. So this follows a young woman named Nona Gray, and we follow her from like childhood through young womanhood. And she, as a child, is ended up like put to the gallows. She's about to be hung for a crime. And at the time that we meet her, we're not really sure what this crime is, but the abbess of Sweet Mercy Convent comes and speaks on her behalf and rescues her from the gallows, takes her under her tutelage at the Sweet Mercy Convent, and she becomes a novice nun at Sweet Mercy Convent. Sweet Mercy Convent is not your typical convent, and it's a place where they train magical assassin nuns. So there's magic, there's weaponry, there's really great action scenes, but there's also awesome like female friendships, female relationships, both romantic and non-romantic, that go on in this book, and one of my favorite reads for the last couple of years. So I definitely want to recommend this trilogy for you if you haven't gotten around to it. Okay, and then my final recommendation for this fall reading season. This is Assassin's Apprentice, written by Robin Hobb, book number 1 of the Farseer trilogy / book number 1 of the entire Realm of the Elderlings series. I just want to recommend this novel because I love Robin Hobb, and you know how it is. But most particularly, I find that like autumn, winter time with these like cozy reading months tends to be a really great time for people where their interest is piqued to dive into like a really hefty fantasy series. And so if you haven't gotten a chance to get into the realm of the Elderlings, this is your chance. This is my nudge again telling you to pick up Assassin's Apprentice. So Assassin's Apprentice is book number 1 in Robin Hobb's whole entire world. It follows our main character, Fitzchivalry Farseer, who is the bastard son, he's a young orphan, bastard son of the king-in-waiting Prince Chivalry Farseer. The discovery of Fitzchivalry's existence ends up like throwing the kingdom in a slight bit of turmoil, because it was unheard of for the king-in-waiting to have stepped outside his marital bed and had a bastard child. So he ends up abdicating his place in the family line of succession and goes into the self-imposed exile. But the family, his grandfather, ends up taking him into the castle life and training him to become the assassin for the family. There are 2 different kinds of like magic systems at work here. There is the skill magic and the wit magic. The skill magic is typically like the magic of the Farseer line, of this royal line. It's this a really nebulous mind magic where you can commune across long distances, you can heal things, but you're also able to kind of impose your will upon people and things with the skill magic. Very difficult kind of magic to use. It's not very common, but there's a coterie of magicians within this world that end up using the skill magic, and that's how Fitzchivalry gets brought up, learning how to use the skill magic. But there's also the wit magic, which allows a human being to bond or commune with animals. And that kind of magic is looked heavily down upon. Fitzchivalry Farseer ends up being able to use both kinds of magic, and he's supposed to kind of keep this under wraps. So we follow along his life, his journey. I'm almost finished with the entire series. It's a 16-book series. So we follow Fitzchivalry from when he's very young, like 5 years old as a young orphan, all the way into manhood in his older age, where he's kind of still learning how to just live as this, like, the stain upon this Farseer line is the stain upon the family as the royal bastard. So I love this series so much. It's definitely one of my favorite fantasy series. Like I said, I'm just recommending this because I know that the fall time is like a really popular time for people to get started on some bigger fantasy epics, and so I'm going to throw Assassin's Apprentice on that list for you. So there you have it. Those are some 5 picks that I have for you, 5 fall reading recommendations, 5 fall book recommendations for you. Please let me know what you think about these suggestions in the comment section below. Have you read any of these? What do you think of them? Or do you have your own fall book recommendations? I'd love to hear about it. Follow me on my social media if you want. I'm on Instagram and Twitter. It's at whatcassread. Same as this channel, so it should be super easy to find. My personal Goodreads link is always listed down below, and if you're interested in joining my book club, I will put that link for you down below as well. Otherwise, you know how these videos end. I'll talk to you later.